Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very first edition of my new podcast, talk show, whatever you want to call it, Talking Ship. I'm Monty Weatherall. I am a pastor. I am an award-winning author. I am also the premarital architect, where I've been helping engaged couples who are on the road to marriage, give them great coaching. I'm excited about this new podcast venture that I am starting. I want to tell you something. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I've been doing podcasting even before they were calling it podcasting. I go all the way back to the Monty Weatherall show, and then we did a tough talk with one of my great friends, Tyler and Monty, and then I did the Pastor Monty show, and then probably the one that jumped off and really put a great footprint of my presence. And I guess I ran that most successful iteration of a podcast type talk show was Relationship Monday. And I've been off the map for about 3 or 4 years now of doing podcasts and talk shows and all of that. Got kind of burnt out because I never took a break. When we started Relationship Monday, for those of you who are watching this can go all the way back to the first that Relationship Monday show, we just went. I probably did about 30, 40 weeks in a row. And as you're going to see with me, I do a lot of high production value type things. I kind of do it in house. I got this studio that's set up in my home. I'm going to be setting up a little more different type of studio because I want to bring guests in pretty soon and sit in studio with me to talk about various topics. But the name of this podcast is Talking Ship. We're going to be talking ship, talking about ship. We're going to be talking about relationships, and it's going to be all kind of relationships. When I did the Relationship Monday show, we focused a lot on romantic relationships. And of course, because of what I do as the premarital architect, of course, we're going to talk a lot about romantic relationships. But I want to cover the whole ship. I want to be very well-rounded because I think there are some important conversations that need to take place, not just in the romantic category. In fact, I'll give you a little nugget tonight. What I have come to believe is that unless you're well-rounded in your area of relationship, you really can't optimize the level of romantic relationship that you should have. So we're going to cover a lot of topics dealing with the relationships. One of the topics that I'm going to cover really soon, I wanted this to be my first show, but tonight's show, I couldn't help it. I had to get on out here, but I wanted this to be my first show. I wanted it to be with my daughter, and we're going to talk about healing a relationship between a father and daughter. And she's going to be my first guest that I bring in studio to talk about that. And I think it's going to be a subject that's going to be healing for a lot of you. I'm going to talk about things like, can men and women be friends and not cross lines and just be friends. So we got a lot of great ideas, but I want to say hello, but I'm not going to be able to do this. We're going to have great guests. We're going to get celebrity guests. We're going to get local celebrity guests, all of the things Talking Ship. But guys, I cannot do this without you. And so as I always do, I'm going to be bringing you guys in and talking to you guys and wanting to hear what you got to say. Christopher Michaels, hey, my man, how you doing? He's on here. Well, Lisa Reeves is on here. Carolyn Hall is on here. Hey, why don't you give me a shout out? There's 9 of you on. There's 10 of you on. I know already I got to build the audience back up. And you know what you got is I want you to do, share this video right now. If you're on the YouTube side, like it and subscribe it. We're going to be chopping these videos up and putting them on the YouTube side. But man, I'm really excited about this new venture. I'm not going to go 30, 40 weeks in a row. I'll probably do like 11 or 12 shows, podcasts, and then shut it down and come back and just rest. Because, when I go, I really go at a higher pace. I want to also let you know, as we're getting started tonight, who am I? Why do I want to get back in this space? A lot has changed. I was talking with my wife this morning about the landscape has changed. To me, was one of the first ones to do a podcast, a high quality podcast where you had guests and split screens and all of that. Well, since I've especially in the last 4 years since I left the space, a lot has changed. The biggest thing has changed. You got a lot of celebrities and athletes have got into this podcast space. So they're kind of getting a lot of the audience. I still believe there is a niche out there for me to talk about relationships the way I talk about relationships. I want to let you guys know right now that I am not an opinionist. I'm going to be bringing these hot topics, these hot subjects for us to discuss. I'm not an opinionist. I don't want to give you my opinion particularly about a different subject that I cover, but I am a conversationalist. More than anything I want to do is I want to start a conversation to get us talking. I missed that in the 4 years from the perspective that I have to get the conversation started in the way that I love to do it. And that's what we're going to be doing here on Talking Ship. We're going to be starting a conversation, having a great one, getting your opinions. I'm going to bring some of you guys on screen. I want to hear from you guys, but it's going to be in the way that I am used to doing it. And of course, as I said, I'm going to always put your comments on screen so our audience can read it. Hello, Jeremy. Thank you so much, sir. Again, Christopher Michaels, thank you for sharing. Share the video, guys. Let's get everybody. Let's get the gang back. Some of you guys have asked me. You run into me in the stores, at Walmart, at Sam's. Man, when you gonna bring your relationship show back? Well, I am back starting tonight. Got a great subject for you tonight, guys. I got to tell you, I got a barn burner for you. And the reason why I wanted this to be my first show. Now, I got to tell you, I'm not one of those people that I get an idea from someone and then I don't tell you where I got the idea from. This idea this week is not unique to me. One of my best friends in the world, Pastor Ricky Floyd, was talking about this on one of his posts. And I remember I ran across this whole subject before and I said, you know what? That is something that I really would love to talk about. This whole idea of passport dating. Now, passport dating is actually not the term. The term is really passport bros. And this is talking about men that have decided to leave the United States and look for love and companionship in other countries, as far as Southeast Asia. They go to South America, some in Europe. And it just got me to thinking, especially with the number of single, available, smart, intelligent, anointed, beautiful women who are available and are looking for love. Why were these men leaving the United States and trying to find love and companionship outside of the United States? But I call it passport dating because I want to open it up. Is it just exclusive to men? Is it just exclusive to black men? Are white men doing it? Should men be the only one to do it? These are things that we're going to talk about tonight. And I got some great clips that I'm going to be weaving in and out of here. Get your pen and your pads ready because we're going to be taking notes. This is going to not just be me talking for this entire hour. I got several clips that's lined up. We're going to watch them. We're going to be weaving in and out of them to talk about them. But passport dating. And as I told you, that's really not technically the term. The term is passport bros. I'm going to put my spin on it. But if you really want to know what actually is passport dating, what I want to do, family, is I want to take you to my first video that's going to kind of give you a summary. You're going to hear from some men, you're going to hear from some women about passport dating, pros, cons. Why do men do it? What is it all about? Check it out.
So what do you guys think on the new wave of passport bros? So passport bros are men who are traveling overseas to find love, find feminine women. Men are leaving the West. Men are leaving America. They're tired of American women. They want to go find feminine, pure women overseas.
A passport bro is a term used to describe a Western man who leaves their country in order to find a woman from a non-Western country. There's many reasons they do this.
Well, I think that, like they go there because they can't really handle us here,
Okay.
Because we have a lot of, I feel like they can't take the feminism and the fact that we actually speak up for ourselves.
Okay.
And, the fact that we're independent and we do our own and they don't like it. Some people don't like, some men actually do like it, but these men, I don't know why they're so against it. They don't like to see us shine.
Why you think they so mad at the passport bros? Dudes that they didn't want anyway. You know why they're mad? Because they are terrified that those dudes is going to fly to another country. They're going to see how those women act. They're going to see how those women treat the men. They're going to experience how those women treat them. And then they're going to come back and tell us. And then we're going to look at them and say, wait a minute. We don't have to put up with this?
There's more to Passport Bros than just finding women. It's about finding peace.
Passport Bros. Again, the topic is passport dating, but I had to be true to what's really going on. Passport Bros. Before I say anything else, I want you guys to please share this video. Share this video, man. Let's get these numbers up. I know a lot of folks don't even know I'm back in this space. If you can share this video for me, it will be helpful on the Facebook Live side. Passport Bros. And I have a question. I want to hear from you guys. I want to read some of your comments. I want to get into it with you guys. Sisters and bros, you can jump in as well. Why do you think men are leaving the United States to find love? All of these single, available, beautiful, let's go in the church world, anointed, dedicated women in the United States. I want to have the conversation with you tonight. Why are men? And let me tell you something. If this is the first time you've heard of this, it's picking up steam. It's going on. As I tell you, they're going to Southeast Asia. They're going to South America. Men of different races, men of different ages. Men are leaving the U.S. and they're finding women that they feel that they can be most compatible with. Very interesting to me when I heard of it. The thought crossed my mind of what about all these wonderful women? And, you know, what I do as the premarital architect, I coach engaged couples. And I can't even tell you the number of women that'll ask me, hey, do you know of any guys, Pastor, any guys that it didn't work out with the couples you was coaching and all of this kind of stuff? And so you have a plethora of single women available in the United States. But at the same time, men are electing to leave the United States. I want to hear from you. You guys are not type some reasons in. And listen, I don't want y'all to be afraid to give your opinion. I want to hear from you. Our audience would like to hear from you. Why are men? Have you heard of this before? That you can answer that. If you're not ready yet to get hot and heavy as to why are men leaving the U.S. to find love. Have you ever heard of this before? Do you agree with it? I just want to get your opinion. And when I first started hearing about this, when it first started crossing my radar for me about 2.5 years ago, I think I was listening to a podcast and I heard the term Passport Bros and thought it was an interesting term. And the person who was hosting the podcast was a black man. He was talking about the black men were doing it because of the what's the word I want to look for? That felt like the matriarchy in the black culture has taken over, where the women now no longer want to be submissive to men, where he felt like the Yas queens were there and not wanting to be in that traditional role that men were used to, and that men were tired of the drama and the other things that came with it. And so what I like to do, I don't like to generate an opinion too quick and even in my mind. I like to kind of look at the evidence and look at both sides of the arguments, and then I can get somewhat of an idea of what's going on. But when I begin to do a deep dive into this, what I discovered was it just wasn't limited to black men. These were men, period, in the United States. I want to read some of your comments, and then we're going to get back to what I was talking about. Henrietta Pearson says, I feel like one of the reasons men are doing this is more evidence that men are out of position. And I don't know how to court and date, and don't know how to court and date women that are whole, confident, stable, love God, and they are spiritual. All right, brothers, did you hear that? Hear that? That's an opinion by Henrietta. I don't feel like one of the reasons men are doing this is more evidence that men are out of position and do not know how to court, date women that are whole, confident, stable, love God, and are spiritual. Vanessa Patterson says, I feel because most men want a natural woman. Most women nowadays wear fake lashes, hair, body parts, and a lot of men don't like that. You know, thank you guys for your comments, and comments are welcome here. I want to hear your opinions here. Why are men leaving the country to find love, to find companionship? And again, when I first heard this, it was on the radar of Black men. And then when I began to do a deep dive, I began to recognize it wasn't just Black men, it was men, period. I'll go to this white man who was a very professional man, as you're going to see, who's going to start talking about what he found out. Get your pen and pad, because we're going to start unpacking some of these things. He took a trip to Japan, and he's going to begin to talk about what he found in women over in Japan. This is a 30.
Passport bros is the collective term for a movement among Western and specifically American men who are increasingly pursuing mating and dating opportunities abroad. These are guys who are flying to places like South America and Southeast Asia and the Middle East in order to access sexual opportunities that they argue aren't available in their home country. And I'm going to respond to this phenomenon through the lens of my recent experiences spending a month in the country of Japan.
So now, one of the things that he said, ladies and gentlemen, of course, that's from a guy that's a secularist, obviously, talking about sexual opportunities. But I wanted to put that clip to kind of set up who this guy is and again, what he found out from his time in Japan. So this is, so of course, we was Christian based. I am a Christian man and do not believe in just traveling for sexual opportunity. And for the most part, men aren't doing that. They're going to other countries and they are bringing back wives. They are marrying women and bringing them back. He says some interesting things. I want y'all to hold on now because we're about to take a ride now. He's going to give us now 4 things that he saw in the women in Japan that he did not see in the women in the United States. That could be a reason why men are leaving the country to go to over other countries to find love. I want you to check this out. Check this out. Now, after each one of them, what we're going to do is we're going to look at them, and then we're going to break them down. Then we're going to talk about them, and then we're going to see what you say. Here is the first reason.
The quality of the women in Japan was significantly superior to the quality of the women in the Bay Area, like not by a little, by orders of magnitude. Let me break down some of the various factors that go into that statement. First of all, the women in Japan are slender and physically healthy. I spent a month in some of the largest cities in the world, and I must have seen 10 overweight women in that entire time, half of whom were little old ladies. And these overweight women weren't morbidly obese. They were like plump, maybe 20 or 30 pounds overweight max. Most Western women literally couldn't buy clothes in Japan. The vast majority of Japanese women are slender and physically fit, which is appealing because it's not only attractive, but it indicates a compatible value as well. Like, I want people who care about their health.
So he says the first thing that he noticed over there where the women were slender, they were physically fit, that they cared about their health, their figures, their shapes. Now, women, again, I just want to get a conversation started. I'm going to be weaving in and out of conversations I've had with other men about these types of subjects that we're going to be dealing with. I'm going to talk to you from their perspectives. I'm going to be giving you some truths, not from, again, I'm not an opinionist. I am a conversationalist. I want to have the conversation. So as I'm hitting you with these truths now, don't get offended at me. I'm telling you what men I talk to from research I've done. And I just want you to hear the information, and you can ponder these things. You can reject these things. You can say this hogwash. You can log off, or you can seek to be educated about maybe if you want to find love, these are some of the things you may consider doing. Men care about looks. Men care about the physicality of a woman. I can go Bible for some of you Christians who are on here like myself. The Bible says that man looks at the outside. It's God who looks at the heart. And that is a scripture that I live by. And nothing can be more true than for a man. And I think from what the brothers have told me, of course, is that when you're looking at the competition out here, meaning the numbers, the sheer numbers, when men have a choice, of course, they're going to choose what's more pleasing to their eye. And now I know some of the subjects, some of the comments, some of the clapbacks, some of the pushbacks, where a lot of men who come after women aren't in shape. Men have a lot more options than you have. And sometimes when the numbers are 1 and 7 or 1 to 10, if you go to places like Atlanta, it's 1 to 15 or whatever, then they have a few more options. And so you have to really look at how men define themselves, who they are, by what they have and what they've accumulated, by what they do, what they can do, how they can provide. And so when you're looking at that, you really have to consider this is a legitimate. This is what I want you to consider. You can say hogwash, and that's on you. You can form that opinion, but I want you to consider this man is not the only person that feels that way. I want to read a few comments here. Carolyn Hall says, I feel the man should take a serious look in the mirror himself, and a woman should not have to dim her light in order for a man to shine, be who he has created to be, the man. Carolyn Fenoy simply says, good evening. Leslie Withers says, some men were used to the woman staying home to take care of the kids, whereas now women are having children and right back at work, running companies or working in leadership. This can be intimidating to some men when it's not meant to be. Great comments, guys. What do you think about the first reason here? What do you think about the first reason here for that he saw in Japan? Christopher Michaels says, I lived in Japan. So now we have a man who actually lived in Japan. Thank you, bro, for commenting, representing the brothers. I lived in Japan for 2 years. There are some heavyweights over there. Many, they are naturally smaller people. There are a lot of fit women in the United States. If you find someone you want to care about, you will go the extra steps to form her into the woman you want, as she formed you into the man she wants to, or as well. And I'll come back to that, and I'll just go to Henrietta. When men go to these countries, I wonder if they're considering cultural differences. This is subjective, personal preferences. And the ideology that one culture is better than the other is ludicrous. Okay. Thank you guys for your opinion. I want you guys, let's keep rolling. Let's just do it. Let's go to now video number 2 and point number 2 of what he saw from the women in Japan. Hang on.
Second, these women are feminine. They wear dresses and heels and makeup. They tend to dress more conservatively than Western women. No tight clothes, no showing a lot of skin. The feminine ideal there seems to be like softly elegant, flowing and modest and dignified. And these aren't 1950s housewives. These are women who, for the most part, are working professionals. They have modern ideas. They are educated and accomplished, but they haven't thrown out more traditional conceptualizations of female beauty. This is not something you can easily find in the West anymore, and you can't find it at all in the Bay Area, at all. And I find feminine women very attractive. It resonates with me and inspires me to be even more masculine.
The women in Japan, from this guy's point of view, we're talking about passport dating on Talking Ship with me, Monty Weatherall, having a great conversation. I love your comments. Thank you. Keep writing them in. Number two that he said he saw was women were feminine. They dressed feminine. They dressed softly. They wore skirts. They wore heels. They wore makeup. And that was appealing to his eye. He liked that. Again, not only have I heard this gentleman say that, I've heard men say that to me, that for the most part, that's not the right word. I want to choose my words carefully. I've heard men not say for the most part, but I've heard them say just there is a great amount of women now not caring about their looks, their femininity, looking appealing, especially in public. Now, remember, church women on here, women of God on here, not talking about going to church, even though you can make a case for that as well. But when they go out to the stores, they go to the airports, shucks. Remember, Monique had the whole thing about bonnets and all of that. But he was saying that these women in Japan were, for the most part, feminine. And they wore the heels and they made themselves appealing in that femininity part for men. Boy, this is good. Let me see. Princess Rihanna says she's watching. She's watching. And I believe, Rihanna, I think you're from Guyana, I believe, as well. So what do you guys think? Women, so is he totally off base with all he's saying so far? What do you guys think? Or you just you rejected everything, you're spitting it out, you're spitting out the meat, the bones, and everything. And let me ask you this. Even I would ask you not to take it personally, even though in some cases you probably can't help it, but just look at it as a whole. Do you find a lot of women, let's exclude going to church, out in public, not looking as feminine as they ought to look if they want to be appealing for a man? What are you guys thinking? What are you guys thinking? Have you turned me out? You tuned me out? Have you said that man don't know what he's talking about? The man that's on the screen. Why are men leaving the United States to go to other foreign countries to find love? If you're a man on here and you're laying in the cut, I would love for you to get out of the cut and just type something. Is he on point? You can type 1 for on point, brothers, 2 for no. Is he on point? Is he making some of the cases that in your own mind you've thought so far? The women he's saying in Japan. And let me tell you something. This is just this guy who went to Japan. Christopher Michaels came on, and he's saying now he put 2 that he doesn't agree, I guess. But he says 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Now, no, I won't do that. But I'll just say 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. He puts 2. But this is not just unique to women in Japan. I've heard men talk about women in other countries who are fit, who are feminine, and things like that. Let's look at, thank you, Chris. Thank you, sir, though, man. I appreciate you chiming in. Vanessa Patterson, he definitely don't know what he's talking about, but to each his own. Well, I think he knows what he's talking about to Japan. I don't think that's fair to say he don't know what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about, what he saw in Japan and what his eyes see in his part. He's mentioned he's from the Bay Area. Carolyn Hall says, I've noticed that a lot of women wear these bonnets, pajama pants to the mall, Croc shoes. There's nothing appealing about them. And so it doesn't appeal to me as a woman. So I can imagine as a man, and I'm not this, it's just my opinion. Henrietta says, nope, he ain't on point. He ain't on point. Okay. And so Christopher Michaels agree with you guys. He's a man. But I do like Carolyn's Hall's comment that she's seen it, and as a woman, this is not something that she finds at all not appealing, just as from a woman's standpoint, that women shouldn't be doing that. So we have fit, we have feminine, and let's look at one more. Let's go to the next one here. Fit, feminine, and let's go to.
All right. Third, the women in Japan are extremely respectful. Every woman I interacted with there was extremely warm and friendly. They were receptive to conversation, and they seemed to enjoy, or at least very effectively pretended to enjoy, speaking with me. Even more, they were solicitous about my feelings and seemed concerned that I should enjoy the interaction as well. I didn't experience a single indifferent or disrespectful word, tone, or glance from a woman in a month. This made approaching and talking to women in Japan a much less fraught experience than it is in the US. The women I spoke to seemed to take pleasure in the attention and in the dialogue. Nothing about the interaction indicated that they were annoyed or offended that I was interested in talking to them.
Nothing about these women made this gentleman feel like they were annoyed that he was talking to them. And I know to be true, just by some of your comments, that you guys are absolutely annoyed by this gentleman. Oh, I just wanted to get that off. But he found them to be respectful, that they didn't have a disrespectful tone. He found them to be soft speaking, not without an attitude, that they took pleasure in speaking with him. Fit, feminine, respectful. Sister Carolyn Fenoy says, I think a woman should keep herself well-groomed and feminine. You can be feminine in pants and a blouse or dress and heels. A woman wants a man for himself to be well-groomed as well. We want all to be respected and treated with kindness and not looked at as being unequal. Princess Rihanna said, it's damage control for African-American men. I don't think they want to be put in the work to undo damage caused by African-American women, by society and African-American men. African-American women have had to do more masculine work, so they dress for comfort, so they can take care of families alone, work, and still be the backbone of society. Not about the backbone. Nothing about the backbone is soft. Jeremy says, I think he's on point for what works best for him, what he is attracted to, and all of what he describes exists here, and all of what he dislikes exists there. Okay, so, but I want to thank you guys. And finally, Carolyn Hall says, no, he's full of himself. He requires all the attention. I want to say to you again, this is, I brought a man on here that could, who could articulate himself, that you guys can see his hear his words. But he's not the only man that feels this way. He is not the only man that feels this way. And I think what I would hope in the conversation that we're having tonight, and it's a great one, I would hope that you guys will ask the question, is there a morsel of truth into what he is saying? And that you can now not only check yourself, but even others around you. There is a reason why there are so many women who are single and who are available, who are prosperous, who are professional. There's a reason for that. I just want to explore this, and not only explore that truth, but why are the men now leaving the United States to find other women? It is not quite an epidemic or a pandemic yet, but it is happening a lot more than you may realize. And a lot of you are starting to say, well, that's his preference, that's on him. I'm telling you guys, it's not just his personal preference. There are a lot of men who are getting worn out the men that I talk to, from this backbone of society, as one person said, of the matriarchy, feeling like she has to run this country and things like that. And that is the posture that when they are approaching women, that they're telling me. That's why I couldn't wait. I could not wait to have this conversation with you guys. Now, we know we're going to have that subject at a later date. We know that a lot of women have been forced to run their homes because of the lack of men in the homes. But at what point, what I hear men saying to me all the time, at what point though do you let down that baton so that the man can at least be able to approach you without that spirit of masculinity? In some cases, they're saying to me that women are giving off. Let's look at Henrietta. These isolated experiences from one individual. I've already dealt with that. I don't agree with him. Exclamation point. You have the same kind of woman here. That man wants a fit woman, an educated, well-dressed woman to take care of him and will freely give him and tolerate a lot from him. Black women are fit, well-dressed, educated, but we're not tolerating a man without a job, no car, still living with his mama. And, you know, thank you, Walisa, for bringing that point up. Because I want to say something in the beginning of this. I was excited to get this conversation going, that we're not talking about that. And these men who are, listen, you can't be a passport brother that don't have a job. You can't even be a brother. You know, those of us who live on the east side of the St. Louis River, many times you can't be a brother to drive across the river and don't have a job and no car and all that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about professional men, educated men, available men who wants to provide, who want to take care of their woman. I want to add, who want to be loyal to their woman. I have so many brothers that talk to me and say, I want a woman that I can take care of. I want a woman that I can spoil. I'm just not willing to do it when I have to deal with a contentious woman. They're saying to me, not dealing with a woman to make her voiceless, to not make her silent. I don't want a voiceless, silent woman, but I don't want a woman that I have to argue with, that I have to have contentious relationship with, that I have to come home and I'm being nagged at and yelled at and there's no peace. That I don't want an entitled woman, that I have to do this, rather than I want a woman that can be appreciative for what I'm doing. I have these conversations all the time. That's why I'm here. I want to look at what Ellie said. Ellie said he's on point. They are respectful, and she was open to the experience. And I'm sure she didn't have her drive. He didn't have her pay 50-50. A woman falls into feminine energy by nature when she feels she can be protected. Again, his personal preference. We've already covered that. I just want to see what you guys are saying. Leslie Witness say, we exist. We're kind, we're friendly, we're compassionate. We don't have a potty mouth. We're easy to talk to, but it depends on how the man comes to you in the first place. Well, Lisa says it's true, but doesn't apply to all women. Carolyn says it's a control factor for a lot of these men. Women in some of these foreign countries are groomed differently than here in the U.S. You're absolutely true about that. Michael Bradford says it's interesting that a movement can start and it be viewed as non-substantive. It shouldn't be challenging to realize that a lot of men struggle with Western female culture. It shouldn't be challenging to realize that a lot of men struggle with Western female culture. Princess Ryan said, are men willing to do for African-American women that they're doing for Japanese women? I'm sure they speak softer to them, sweeter in nature to them, etc. But I don't know what IG means. From the men that I speak with, and again, I just don't speak to African-American men, but I'll speak about the African-American man in particular. They would love to, from what they told me, provide for the African-American woman. They would love to treat these African-American women like they treat those Japanese women. They would love to speak softer to them. A lot of men would tell me, I was talking to one today that was saying that for the most part, when they talk to men, that a man will tell you. We're talking about a man's man. Again, we're not talking about these outliers, these boys, these insecure men who don't know who they are. We're talking about men who are professional, who are sure of themselves. What this gentleman was telling me, that for the most part, these men will approach you and they'll start off being kind, being softer, being sensitive to your needs and things like that. But then when they are getting hit in the brick wall with the overly passionate conversation, the loud, the nagging and the fussing, then that's when they would generally turn their countenance toward the women. Thank you, Princess Reiner, saying this is a wonderful conversation. And that's all I want to do. I want to give a conversation. Christopher Michael says, I'm guessing. I want to go back to his, where we at? We want to go to did we do the third already? Let's go to the fourth reason and final reason for him.
Fourth, while a kind of chivalry exists in Japan, it's an inverted version of what we have here. In Japan, men come first, women come second. It's difficult to appreciate how deeply the romantic ideology permeates our manners until you go to a completely different culture. For instance, one day I was walking towards the main entrance of a building at pretty much the same time as a woman. My natural instinct was to get there first and hold the door open for her. However, when I did so, she refused to walk through it, making a show of great embarrassment. And I later realized that in that culture, it would have been embarrassing for her if I had allowed myself to disrespect myself in that way for her sake. And to be honest, it felt good to be honored for being a man. Like, it's not a bad thing to be a man in Japan.
It's not a bad thing to be a man in Japan. It felt good to be honored for being a man. We're having a conversation, for those of you who are just chiming in, about passport dating. And really, again, the key term is really passport bros. We're talking about that, and I'll unfold in a moment. Why did I say passport dating? But his final point was that it felt good to be honored. I think the word that stood out to me as I listened to him was honored, to be honored for being a man, and didn't have to always simply cater to the women simply because he had to. It felt good to be honored. And now, from the opening up the doors and things like that, I don't hear that much from men here in America. I just want to give his side. I don't believe men in America really, they totally don't mind opening up the doors for women. And I'm gonna tell you, the men that I talk to, and that I talk to all the time, will say, I want to take care of a woman. I want to spoil a woman. I want to provide for her. I want to travel the world for her. Again, I speak to a lot of men who are, the word that was popular 3 or 4 years ago, high value men. And they want to provide, they want to protect, they want to care, they want to spoil, they want to do all of those things. So that piece, Christopher Michael says, he says, you're about to start a fire with that part of the video. And again, that's not so much to say about the opening up the doors. What I didn't put in there, because I didn't want folks to blow the stack off their brain. He said he went to a shelter or some type of gymnasium. There was a natural disaster and the women were giving up their cots. So the men, we wouldn't dare do that. Our culture wouldn't dare do that. And I don't believe men in America want to do that. But I can tell you what men in America really want to do. They not want to do what they really want. They really want to be honored for being a man. And when they feel they're being honored for being a man, then they will be more willing to take care of their women. What do you guys say? What say you, man? That last point, I know I even lost a couple of only 18 views. I lost another view. I even lost another one on the point. Like, I can't take that. Don't necessarily, for the most part, I don't know if a lot of men would necessarily agree with that point, except on the honor part. On the honor part. I just want to go back to something that Michael Bradford had to say in the conversation, it shouldn't be challenging to realize that a lot of men struggle with Western female culture. And he put number one, he agreed with what this gentleman is saying. So the conversation is passport dating. Now, I want to now give the reverse. But before I do, Jeremy has something to say. I also think culture plays a crucial role. To look at the Japanese woman, you have to look at the Japanese man and how they have treated their women, provided for their women, making them more comfortable to be comfortable in the feminine submissive roles, and honor men because they have been raised by honorable men. These women haven't had to play the roles that the Western men have forced women into for decades. Henrietta Pearson says, so much of this is somewhat a false comparison because of our cultures are so different. The other part is trending influences that see celebrities marry outside of their race/culture. Janice Buckner says, in most foreign countries, women are subservient to their mates, expected to keep silent. Women are not allowed to voice their opinion. Women in the U.S. have been put into the male role. Women in the U.S. have been put into the male role. It's good. It's good stuff, you guys. I love the conversation. You got to admit whether you agree with him. And again, guys, I just want to say this. I just chose a guy who just went to Japan. They are going to Brazil. They're going to the Dominican Republic. They are going to Europe. They are going to Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines. Don't go to Colombia. If I got a brother in here that's thinking about going to leave the Western culture to find love, don't go to Colombia. Just hold on. Don't leave. I'll leave that as a cliffhanger because we'll talk about that in a moment. But I had a conversation. In fact, I got permission to say I had a very lively conversation with my wife, Kimberly, yesterday as I was going to do this show, this podcast yesterday. And she says, well, I think women ought to explore their options. Men been exploring their options for years. And I got her permission to say this. She says, I think that women ought to become passport women then. She didn't say that, but she says, I think women ought to go overseas and find love as well. Well, I want to spend the rest of the show looking at a couple of other viewpoints. So let's look at this video here.
She said, oh my God, I have a friend, her son is doing that very thing and basically having the best time of his life. He is dating the most beautiful, wonderful women that treat him the way women used to treat men. He meets their families and the families absolutely adore him. They shower him in food and cakes and pies, very kind and loving and open to him. Very unlike a lot of situations you find here in the United States. There's one woman in particular that he's more serious about now, and she washes his feet. I know that might sound extreme, but why shouldn't you wash someone's feet that you care about? She does his laundry. She's friendly, fit, and fun. She's friendly, fit, and fun. She's friendly, fit, and fun. All of that stuff that US women, claim as subservient or demeaning, or you shouldn't do that for a man. I mean, it sounds insane. So my mom was saying that he is just so happy and having such a wonderful time over there.
Wow, I didn't want to show that clip, but I'm glad I did. I was going to go into another clip. So this is from a woman's perspective of what she's observed from a man that she knows that she's close to. And Michael Bradford, again, says good luck when it comes to going over there and becoming a passport cis. But yeah, this was, I wanted to get a woman's voice on the video side of it. I want to thank all the women who are commenting already on the conversation. We're almost about to wrap. I only want to go an hour. I just want to show you a couple of more things as we're wrapping. So this video is from a woman who says women ought to exercise. They're right. It's only about 21 seconds long. Let's get into
You know
it.
what the best thing about the Passport Bros is? That women have came out and said, yeah, we're joining this movement. Women have been like, yeah, I left the country to find my husband. That's how I got the man I'm with today. Or women being like, I'm joining you guys. I'm leaving the country now to go find me a husband. And they're mad. They're making hate videos. They're just going to be like, well, you're just mad. No American man wants you. Why are y'all mad that women are doing it too?
So she's saying women are saying they're doing it too, and if men can do it, women are doing it too. It's interesting that I'm going to now that Bradford said on here, Michael Bradford said on here, good luck, and I'm going to tell you why he said that, because so I really wanted to do some videos of the Passport sisters, of the Passport women, to make this Passport dating conversation balanced. And I'm telling you, I did a deep dive. I was up to 1:30, 2 o'clock, almost nearly 2 o'clock this morning, trying to find videos to cut for this podcast, for this conversation. And I'm going to tell you, I could not, I'm talking about, I probably scrolled through at least 100 videos, and I did not see, if any, not one. I would have brought it I would have brought it to this conversation if I found one positive video of women who became Passport sisters and went over there to find love. What I saw time and time again were Western women leaving the United States to go to these countries, some of them third world countries, some of them not as developed as our country, and they being even more disappointed in the men over there. And then what I found from the videos that I watched was even when they went to countries who were advanced and as developed, that the men didn't want them. From video after video that I saw, and I can only comment on videos, and these aren't professionally polished videos. Some of these were just selfie type videos. What men were saying is, the foreign men were saying is, they don't want American women. They don't want that ideology that American women have. And so they don't want to deal with, again, this word kept coming up, the drama from American women. So as I wanted to bring a video to be balanced, because if you know anything about me, and when I have these conversations, especially, I want to be fair and I want to be balanced. I want to go look at you guys, a few of your comments, and then we're going to go to our remaining video of the day. Carolyn says, I was told I should be open to men outside of my race and culture. That's one thing, as I was talking to my wife, and she said she just feels like she's been saying for years that women should consider their options as well. I can tell you biblically, again, I'm not trying to have an opinion. I want to have a conversation. I'm a conversationalist, not an opinionist. Biblically, the only requirement that God has ever had was being equally yoked. Is believers ought to date other believers. God never put a cap on the ethnicity of a person. And so, absolutely, if you feel that that's a viable option for you, then it should be explored. Michael Bradford says, no culture wants Western culture ways. No culture wants Western culture ways. That's why it's sad that the movement is so dismissed. Maybe there's a real reason men are considering this option. At least ponder the subject. And, and that's something that I was trying to just ask you guys, at least consider the subject. You can throw it in the trash and say it's a trashy subject, or you can at least ponder the subject. Because I'll tell you what hurts me as a pastor, as a relationship coach, as someone who has been an advocate for women, who has been a defender of and for women, to see so many women who are available, who are kind, who are professional, to see so many women who are single and who are fulfilled in so many areas of their life, who have went out and bought their own home because they have been waiting since their 20s and their 30s, who have paid their credit cards off, who are debt free, and they have a fulfilling life. They travel the world, overseas included. They have their passports, they're ready, but yet they're single. And I have to look at that, and it makes me say, why is that? Why is it that women, these many women on this alarming scale, are still single, when there are some men who are out here who know how to have a conversation, who know how to emote, who have careers, not just jobs, careers, who want to share their life with a woman, but they're electing not to date, deal with, and romanticize Western cultured women. When I see so many women who are single and let down time and time again in relationships for 5 or 6 weeks, and then it flames out, it makes me say, man, we got to have a conversation. And that's what I was trying to bring to the table, to the table tonight, a conversation. Going back to the comment I made about the only requirement that God has, and you should explore, maybe if you feel like that's right for you, explore men outside of your race and ethnicity. The only requirement God has ever had was to be equally yoked. And to that, Ellie said, amen to that. Our last video is coming from a woman who wants you to be careful about, to the men, and to see the reality of some men who have decided to passport date. Again, I try to have a conversation that's fair and balanced. And again, I was really looking for passport sisters out here in the YouTube, in the TikTok, in the Facebook sphere, on video that I could bring to have the conversation. Unfortunately, looked at least 100 videos. I could not find one that could give that perspective and why they do it and things like that. But here is a woman that wanted to say something and a warning to the men.
Y'all remember the passport bros? The one that disrespect black women in America, saying they're going to go to all these other countries and find submissive wives because black women ain't. Well, guess what, passport bros? Y'all are getting unalived in these other countries. 8 passport bros killed in Colombia in the past 3 months. Authorities say at least 25 passport bros were unalived in Medellin, Colombia in 2023. 4 Americans were unalived in Medellin in November alone. This is 59-year-old Gregory Stewart Owens, who was looking for love in Colombia when he was gunned down in the streets of Cartagena during a robbery in October 2023. Owen was robbed of all his belongings, including his watch and a gold chain around his neck. Owen's family finally received his body in Tennessee 2 weeks after he was unalived. This is Johnny Jerome. He was 45 and was found dead in a jacuzzi in a luxury hotel suite in Medellin on November 2nd. He was unalived the day after celebrating his birthday with a cousin and 2 women he met on a dating app. Philip Mullins, a 32-year-old Tennessee man, was found dead in a room at the upscale 1 Million Suites Hotel in Medellin after a night out with a woman. And Minnesota comedian, I do not want to butcher his name, a high school valedictorian, was found dead on December 11th in a ravine after he had met a woman for a date. He was 45 years old and was beaten to death with a blunt object. 4 people, including a minor, were arrested and charged for his murder. On November 13th, Texas resident Jeffrey Hudson, 55 years old, was found dead in his hotel room with at least 20 stab wounds in his neck. Hudson was killed after returning to his hotel suite with an 18-year-old woman he met on a dating app in Medellin. The U.S. State Department has issued a warning to avoid using dating apps to meet women in foreign countries. Men are being warned not to book Airbnbs and hotels in isolated locations in Mexico and Colombia. I know there's a collective "we told you so" coming out of the black woman community. I can tell you that much. Y'all are going over there looking for submissive wives, and they are setting you up with their non-submissive men. Hey, yeah, maybe stay your home. Just saying.
So the cautionary tale for some of these men who are leaving the United States to find love, to find a different culture, to find a different type of woman. The cautionary tale, at least in Colombia, South America, is that you better be careful, because everything that you left here, you may find over there. These women are setting these men up. They're luring them into these Airbnbs and hotels, and then they are being unalived, as the popular word on social media is to say. So, brothers, if you're on here and you're thinking about going overseas to a passport, becoming a passport bro, don't go to Colombia. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for this great conversation. Just the final thoughts from you guys, and I'll give my final thoughts. My final thought from Henrietta: I would compare it to a child that has torn up their house and now they're ready to go venture out to torn up more homes. Both men and women are negligent in the condition of the Western culture. Princess Raina says, very true. Carolyn Hall says, thank you, Pastor. And Michael Milton, who's my guy, I love him so much, man, says it was great. Keep it up. I thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to be talking ship. We're going to be talking a lot of ship over the months, over hopefully the years. Hopefully I'll stay on this time. But for me, what's going to drive me to stay on, guys, is you. Is going to drive me is your ability to watch, your ability to share, your ability on the YouTube side to subscribe. It's going to be you guys. I love to have a conversation. It's going to be lit. I got some good things coming up. I want to have a conversation with my daughter, because again, talking ship is not just going to be about romantic relationships. I believe that a lot of people, when we talk about brokenness in women and men, it starts a lot of times with brokenness of the home. To give you a preview, that was a period of 4 years that my daughter and I were not in communication with one another. We did a lot of work to heal that relationship. I think because on both sides, we were healed. On both sides, we became infinitely better people. I know that I'm a better husband because of my relationship with my daughter. I think she would say that she's a better wife. She got married. My biggest love was to walk her down the aisle in May, and she was married because of her relationship that was healed with me. So we're going to talk about that. She's going to be my first guest. I won't have any other guests till I get my baby girl on here, because that's a conversation I want you guys to hear on Talking Ship. Then we're going to talk about other things. We're going to have fun like these and have hard conversations like these. I want to thank Alicia Thorpe, Carolyn Fenoy, Walisa Reeves, Henrietta Pearson, Princess Raina, Michael Bradford, Michael Milton. Thank Janice Buckner. Thank Jeremy Watson for all of your wonderful comments. You guys make it happen. Whatever you do, seek to get healthy. And I'll see you soon. Come on back and we'll talk some shit. See you later.